What's up, guys? Here with you, FC Wonderkid, episode 146. Here with my guy, Breton. How are you?
I am doing about as well as Phil Walter Foden is right now, and probably Pep Guardiola in a quick second. But I'm doing great, Alex. I'm happy to be here. Episode 146. We got a lot to talk about. Manchester Derby. We're going to go through our best Premier League Wonderkids. We're going to talk about the Champions League, some MLS, so much. And we could be here for hours, but we're not going to be. We want to keep moving on, but I would love for people to let us know what they think of this week's football. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. And you said Phil Walter Foden is one of the happiest man this weekend. Well, understandably he is, but another happy man this weekend. And I wanted to say this on the podcast. Jorge Jesus could be the manager with most wins in a row in the history of football at Al Hilal. They've got 25 wins in a row since he started. 0 draws, 0 losses. Mitrovic, Milikovic, Savic, Ruben Neves, they're the best team in Saudi Arabia. Not Al Nassr right now. 3 wins away to break the record. Just wanted to mention that. But breaking records is what Phil Foden is doing this season. 28 goal involvements, and no doubt, Southgate, you must start Phil Foden. You must start Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, and obviously Bukayo Saka. 3 talismans of this English national team. And when I see now these English players playing, I understand that England are definitely one of the favorites for the Euros. And if they don't win, I think it's because of Gareth Southgate. Oh my days. What a season he's having.
It is. It's already his best season, right? And he's got 11 games remaining in the Premier League season, and they are tracking Liverpool. They are tracking Arsenal, or beating Arsenal, but they are doing what they need to do right now. But Phil Foden has been otherworldly recently. I'm not saying, Haaland is just kind of sitting in the back seat somewhere, or De Bruyne is sitting in the back seat somewhere. They've had their fair shees. They did. You're absolutely right. He did in this game, and that's what I was going to say. But they did kind of in this game, and it was because Phil Walter Foden decided to come up and get it done, and unfortunately silence all those Old Trafford fans that saw that counterattack work. That first time, beautiful goal. I thought it looked a smidge offsides, but I guess it wasn't. And then when you saw Rashford miss the second 2 chances, he was miscontrolled it, and then a second time, it was a little bit of a weird acute angle, but if he put those away, maybe we'd be singing a different tune. But in the end, second half, that's Manchester City's half.
It's true.
And you just knew it. And plus, Rodri was on the field, so we always knew at some point Manchester City wouldn't let that go dying, right? That I don't know what it's up to now, but it's well beyond 50, right?
True. Rodri's been absolutely fundamental too. The best defensive midfielder in the world. It was interesting too to see Casemiro that has 20 goals scored for Manchester United in 71 games for the club. He's changed the way he plays from Real Madrid to Man United because it's needed. The goals are absolutely needed in this team. But going back to the talisman, Phil Foden. Phil Foden is there when Man City need him. Phil Foden, in his Man City career, 256 games, 77 goals, and 51 assists. And Phil Foden, at the age of 23, has equaled David Silva in goals. Equaled! That is magnificent to do.
It really is. It really is. Considering he's only 23. And it's not like Silva was there for a jog in the park. Silva was there for a decade. So Phil Foden has only been there, he was 17 years old was when he made his debut. So we're talking in 60% or so of the time that David Silva was there. Phil Foden has matched it. And the majority of those early years, he was Mr. Super Sub or barely scraping by. And that's the thing. That's like, it kind of warms my heart, whether you're a Manchester City fan or not. Consider how many times Phil Foden had the door open for him to leave. Pep Guardiola always says, I have wonderful players at my disposal. And if they do not want to fight for their position, I have no problem letting a really good player leave because I want somebody there that understands his role. Phil Foden, as a young kid developing at Manchester City, developing under Pep Guardiola, had to have had many moments where he was frustrated not getting in the 11. One of the best sides in the world obviously has grown into the best side in the world over the last few seasons. And it comes down to the fact that Phil Foden's persistence, his ability to continue to earn the trust, make the right decisions when he's on the pitch, and step up in big moments. And that's why Phil Foden's still there. It really is such a cool story of persistence, considering how many other Manchester City Academy players have been sold off to fund their endeavors.
We only have Bob,
good on Phil Foden,
and Rico Lewis staying right now in that team. And another mad stats, Phil Foden in his last 2 seasons has scored 6 goals against Man United. No player in the world has scored more goals to Man United than Phil Foden. This is a player that was born and raised to be a Man City player. That is history, and that's his dream scenario. So Phil Foden, keep going bold. And as I said, England, start Bellingham, start Foden, start Saka, call up Kobe Maino, start Harry Kane, and win the Euros. And if you don't, you must sack Gareth Southgate, because this is a golden generation right there. And I talk about sacking. I don't want to say sack Erik ten Hag. If you want to listen about our conversation about how we think managerial, go check out episode 145, our last podcast. But one thing I love to see, Rashford scored a magnificent goal, but after that, what did we see from Rashford after in this game? We saw misses, and this is what I have to point out. Rashford, great goal, but you need to become a consistent goal scorer to be in the top 5 players in the Premier League, to be compared to Erling Haaland, to be compared to a Bukayo Saka that is younger and better, and to be compared to a better player right now that is Phil Foden in my eyes. Rashford, get the consistency, because with it, he's a world-class player. World-class player. And that's not an understatement. I really believe he is when he's consistent.
Exactly, when he's consistent. And could you imagine if a Marcus Rashford is consistent heading into the Euros this summer? The depth. And I think the bigger issue for most people is whether or not Gareth Southgate can properly put a lineup out there. As you mentioned, 3 guys that should definitely be on the field. If Marcus Rashford somehow rounds into
at left wing,
past Marcus Rashford form at left wing, I mean, that is just such a formidable attack that it's scary. But we did see him regress to the mean. We saw Garnacho get lost, as sometimes happens in massive games for young players. Kobbie Mainoo, while it was his first Manchester derby start, I think he actually played pretty dang well for an 18-year-old. But that's the qualifier for an 18-year-old. That's not necessarily going to win you the game. And Erik ten Hag did what Erik ten Hag can do without Højlund up front. He kept doing what they've done best this season, which is the counterattack, the transition, and try and catch him. And they almost did. It worked. It really worked well for the first half. I mean, you had Rashford through on goal, not once, but twice. And my, would it have been different if he had converted that second one. But City's quality took over, and you knew that they were going to pin them back for at least 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I just don't think they were up for it. So I'm with you. I understand the whole Ten Hag potentially getting sacked thing. Listen, if Radcliffe comes in and decides that this is not the way forward, that's his prerogative for sure. But when you continue, it's what, 5 bosses in the last 4 years. At some point, you got to draw a line, and you got to find the incremental growth instead of the, hey, we're right back in the top 2, top 3. I mean, you've already got pundits out there saying things were a whole lot better under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, that's done and gone, people. But who you bring in next, you got to get that right.
He got a second place, though.
and then they sacked him for it.
But no, I get you. It's the consistency factor, but
Crazy.
I still have big doubts that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will want to be Erik ten Hag, be that guy. I don't know, and I don't think he is that guy. So let us know down below, what do you think about this? But one thing I know, for sure, Man City are the favorites towards winning the Premier League, and the most important game to define who will be the next Premier League winner will be the Man City against Liverpool game in Anfield. It's going to be crucial for Liverpool to win this game, and whoever wins, I think will win the Premier League. Or Man City or Liverpool. And yes, I'm saying that Arsenal is not going to win the Premier League because one of these two teams are definitely my favorites towards winning. Because Liverpool, they got the star with them. They got that little star that in the last minute, they score a goal. In the 99th minute, they score the goal to win against Forest. And you could see in the eyes of the players, it's more than just a game. It's Jurgen Klopp's last season at Liverpool. It's Jurgen Klopp's greatness in action. And Jurgen Klopp is definitely a factor towards that last match winning goal of Darwin Núñez that has scored 6 last match winning goals this season. 25 goal contributions by Darwin Núñez, a player that it was not a mistake to go get off Benfica. Many people still judge Darwin Núñez, but tell me how many world-class strikers are ahead of Darwin. I'm sure you cannot name more than 10. Okay, or more than 5 right now for the age. Okay, it's a challenge though. It's a challenge.
I know there will be a lot of people in the comments saying that was a bit of refereeing terribleness, if to make up a word completely.
No, that's Real Madrid.
That led to that. Oh, referees were definitely front and center in this one. But Nottingham Forest will tell you differently. But yeah, I mean, those types of heroics, that type of bottled up magic, you knew once it cleared the defender that Darwin was going to nod that one home.
Exactly.
Right? He misses the easy ones. He generally makes the hard ones. That's what that's what I've come to notice with Darwin Núñez. But for me, Liverpool with this injury, this is an injury crisis. I don't think there's really any other way to paint it. There are several Premier League teams with an injury crisis right now. Liverpool, who happens to be leading the league, has one, right? That's why they started with Bobby Clark. That's why Connor Bradley has somehow stepped up and become a very good player for Liverpool because he was given the chance in Alexander-Arnold's. Dan's, it looks, every time he gets on the ball, if he touches it in the opposition's box, he's generally pretty dang scary. But true. My under the current here, guys that started out relatively slow have really revved up and stepped up for Liverpool. Harvey Elliott is one of them. Alexis McAllister, I think, has grown into more, even though it's a little bit of a different role than his time at Brighton. He has grown into a very good player after a very slow start. And then Wataru Endo, absolutely everywhere. And what a good piece of identification for Liverpool to bring him in as depth, knowing that they likely were not going to have Thiago, they likely weren't going to have Matip, they weren't going to have any of these guys for like decades. So those three guys have skated under the surface for me. That set that table essentially in the end for that little piece of magic for Darwin's heroics.
But what's crazy for me, you mentioned the Liverpool midfield. The Liverpool midfield, that was greatness assembled, in my view, from Jurgen Klopp. Just like we saw with the fullbacks in the past with Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Greatness again by getting Hendo and McAllister. They cost combined, I think it's less than £60 million. And who are they going to get? Moises Caicedo instead. Good decision by Liverpool, opting not to get... No, I think it was even Caicedo opting to go to Chelsea instead of Liverpool. So thank you, Caicedo, for making that decision, because McAllister and Hendo cost less than £60 million. And yes, they're great midfield options. And even a Gravenberch that's still developing. He will improve long-term, in my view.
But I do have to say, a Caicedo under Jurgen Klopp would be a different Caicedo. I am still not closing the door on €100 million Caicedo. I'm just closing the door on €100 million Caicedo at Chelsea under Pochettino. That's what I'm closing the door on. So Caicedo, I think, under Klopp would have been a very different player. And
Fair
also,
enough.
if McAllister was there too, I don't know if it was one or the other, but if McAllister was there too, you have that tandem. They look pretty good together in Brighton's midfield. So I still hold true, Alex, that Arsenal is the stronger candidate to win this thing if it's not Manchester City. But Liverpool, if they continue to come up with wins like this is exactly what you need to keep in the race. And you're right.
Kelleher's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League right now. No joke.
Right
He
now, yeah.
stepped up
Yeah,
his
right
game to replace Alisson. They win a League Cup against Chelsea. He has a masterclass now against Forest, and he's been a reliable goalkeeper for a number of years now for Liverpool. Ireland's future. Kelleher. I put him ahead of Gavin Bazunu for what he's doing at Liverpool. And Bazunu's also great.
But Bazunu is also great. But my gosh, has he taken some shellackings? And even in the championship, he's had some bad games for them, for Southampton. And they have made their way into the. All right, we're getting off on a tangent. We can talk about the championship other time.
But I wanted to mention
long-winded
this,
way of saying,
yes,
Calmine Kelleher does deserve Ireland's number one, in my opinion.
I agree with you with that.
I do agree.
And a huge week it was for West Ham too. West Ham that are right now 7th position, and there's a lot of haters on David Moyes. But the truth is, West Ham have no striker, but they've got numbers in terms of goals. Jaron Bowen, 22 goal involvements this season. James Ward-Prowse, 16. Then you have Kudus, 13 goal involvements. You got Paqueta with 11 goal involvements, and Susek, 10 goal involvements. No striker, but in terms of goals, this is one of the best West Ham teams I've seen a number of years back. And they're Conference League winners, and they're in the round of 16 right now in a European competition. I think David Moyes is doing a good job since he has no striker. But I do think he's a bit to blame for not playing well with a striker.
I agree. Not exactly adapting, right? Kind of like a Vincent Kompany feel from time to time. You're not adapting Burnley, and that's why you're going down.
And Paqueta.
Anyway. 2
wins in a row with Paqueta. When Paqueta's back, West Ham is one of the best teams in the Premier League. No doubt in my mind. And if they're going to win the Conference League, it's with Lucas Paqueta. That is arguably the best player in the Conference League this season. And Edsel Alvarez, Kudus, they've assembled players to replace Declan Rice. They've done a great job. And James Ward-Prowse, one of the best free kick takers in the world. Edson Alvarez, masterclass against Everton. What a game. I'm shocked with how good they're playing.
I just wonder what West Ham fans feel, okay? I feel like it's like we're a London club. We've been around forever. We have this amazing, loyal fan base. And David Moyes is coming off of losing quite a bit of games, and he's got a little mini winning streak going on right now. True. And they're a stone's throw away from Manchester United, 2 points behind. So you can't necessarily argue with results if you look at West Ham in a kind of a limited or a capped light. There are, I'm sure, a subset of that fandom that says, well, we're West Ham. We should be bigger than that. And I bet you some of them wonder, like, why can't we get Unai Emery Aston Villa results here at West Ham?
Well,
why can't we get that?
I just asked, like, West Ham fans if they were willing to lose David Moyes to Everton. If Everton had David Moyes, I think they'd be winning that game against West Ham, maybe, if Sean Dyche was the West Ham coach. I think, honestly, he's a good manager, David Moyes. But he's one of the greats in the Premier League in his own fashion. Because he wins the European competition. He was at Man United, unfairly judged at Man United, a locker room that wasn't supporting him. Wayne Rooney has come public about it. I like him as a coach. I think West Ham do good with him. Moyes ball.
I just think that they feel capped under David Moyes. They feel like they can't go any higher, that they've reached their precipice, and it's a good precipice, but I think there's a large, as they should, there's a large ambitious part of West Ham supporters that want more, and they feel like they won't get it under David Moyes. They also feel like they might not get it if they continue to spend big money on people that don't work. Paqueta worked, sure.
Kudus worked.
Not so much. Kudus was a lot of money.
Worked.
I think there are people that are on the fence about Edson Alvarez.
What? They shouldn't.
I don't think
they shouldn't be, Breton.
He hasn't been as consistent as people want him. He has been better as of late. I'll give you that. And Jared Bowen, in his best, at his best, he could make the England team as a depth player. True. Absolutely, and I think he probably should. But man, at his worst, which we've seen some of this season more consistently than him at his best, it's just he's middling. He's not that good, right? So I wonder, like, for you, Alex, if Unai Emery took over West Ham, do you think he could have West Ham in the top 5, top 4?
He could. Because Unai Emery is
Okay.
a special manager. He's won
it's
multiple
interesting.
Europa League. And the fact that Aston Villa convinced Unai Emery, for me, was very good. But David Moyes, I think, is a very good option for West Ham for what they can do. Because they don't have a better squad than Aston Villa, West Ham, in my point of view. Being honest. In my point of view. But I could be wrong. I think them ending in the top 8, West Ham, is a good job. And David Moyes, in his second spell now at West Ham, because it was the second time, because Pellegrini wasn't doing the job that he should have done with the team that he had, they were like, no, come back, Moyes, we need you again. And in his second spell, he has 100 wins in his record right now, with the win against Everton in Goodison Park. So let us know, do you agree or disagree about David Moyes, if you're a West Ham fan or a Premier League fan, because this is a very interesting conversation. But you mentioned Aston Villa. Aston Villa is a top 5 team right now. I put Aston Villa playing better than Man United this season. I put Aston Villa with Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, like a Pau Torres, a new defense, and a real midfield playing one of the best footballs I've seen from this team ahead of a Man United this season. Because of
with injuries.
Even with injuries, too. Exactly. Ollie Watkins, 21 goals, 10 assists this season. He's the first player in the Premier League to have 25 goal involvements. Ollie Watkins will stay at Aston Villa. But one thing's for sure, they could sell him for big bucks like they sold Jack Grealish. But they won't do it because they want to fight consistently for the top 6. Great job by Unai Emery.
Absolutely. And Unai Emery understands like the gravity of every win in Premier League. I don't know if you saw his excitement after they beat Luton Town. They
3-2.
were up 2-0 on Luton Town. Luton came roaring back, and they deserve all the credit this season for being one of the better, I should say, teams that got promoted, because Sheffield United and Burnley are just dismal to watch
Barkley
right now. But
could be called up
Luton
for the
has
Euros.
been. It's great to see their persistence. I thought Villa had buried them when Watkins put 2 in the first half. I thought for sure they were dead and gone, but no, they give their fans a show. They give their Luton Town fans a show, and that's awesome to see. But back to Unai Emery, he understood the gravity of that comeback win. That, again, is like the type of magic that you need for him if you're going to stay in what would be an insane, ambitious achievement for Aston Villa. Top 4 Champions League football for Unai Emery and Aston Villa would be absolutely monumental. And I got to say, you said they're a top 5 team. They have been a top 5 team since match day 6. They have not left the top 5 since match day 6 in the Premier League. And that comes with some bad stretches, for sure. It also happens to be a Premier League season where like everybody's beating up on each other, which keeps things kind of closer. But you have to admit, like, now you're getting Lucas Digne and Moussa Diaby. Once Ollie Watkins set the plate, Diaby and Lucas Digne were the ones that finished it. They were put on, and within 10 minutes, they had scored the 89th minute match winner to beat Luton Town, get all 3 points, and put a little bit of daylight in between them and Manchester United. So, or Spurs. I'm sorry, Spurs. And I think the biggest understanding of what Unai Emery has done is probably why I made that if Unai Emery took over West Ham, who doesn't have a striker type of situation,
it makes sense.
is what Unai Emery has done with Ollie Watkins. He has turned him into a bona fide top Premier League striker, one that even if he's not scoring goals, he's creating them.
Douglas Luiz.
And Douglas Luiz is one of the best DMs. 100%.
And it's all 100%. Because of Unai Emery. So he might be selling Douglas Luiz for 100 million.
Ooh, to where?
Well, to a
Arsenal?
team that definitely needs them, which is Arsenal, yes. Well said.
Arsenal.
I was going to go
So Watkins and Douglas Luiz.
To Arsenal.
Go for,
I don't know.
150?
I think Ollie Watkins stays at Aston Villa. Douglas Luiz, I'd say 80 million. Victor Gyökeres, 100 million. Arsenal getting them both next summer. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And do I believe Gyökeres and Douglas Luiz would make Arsenal a Premier League title-winning team? I do. Maybe. I do. I think those 2 transfers, plus a winger and another fullback, that would make it for me. And it would be a different type of team because the goals would be scored a lot more. But let us know, do you agree or disagree with what we just said? But one thing we saw, and we want to talk, we're FC Wonderkid. We specify a lot about Wonderkids because that's what we love. And we've been doing it for multiple years. It's been a decade talking about Wonderkids, okay? Do the background check on us, FB Wonderkids. So I thought... we should talk about the young players in the Premier League because this is a very fun league. Arsenal, they're playing beautiful football. City's playing beautiful football. And Liverpool's playing beautiful football with the Wonderkids being majorly important. So we rank here our top 10 Premier League Wonderkids. And if you disagree with our second or third or fourth or fifth, whatever option, let us know in the comment section that this player is better than the other and tell us why you believe that is the case. But we're going to mention a lot more, not just 10, right, Breton?
Oh, yeah. There will be snubs. That is for sure in this one. 10's just not enough. 10's just not enough. So to lay the table, it's 21 and under.
Exactly.
Is what we're dealing with now. Some of these guys are right on the cusp. They might like turn 22 by the time we post this. But 21 and under is what we're going for. I got to ask, who's your 10th? Because it's crazy. Or do you just want to like name the 10, or do you want to go one at a time?
I think we should name 3 at the time so it's in a good pace. So people at home can say 2, 3 at the time, or 3 that they're thinking. Okay. So my number 10 is Tino Livramento. My number 9 is Jared Braithwaite, underrated center back of Everton. And my number 8 is Destiny Udogie, one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. It's his first season in the Premier League. And I think... long-term, Di Marco's in the Azzurri, but long-term, the Azzurri will have to play Di Marco with Destiny Udogie for how good they are. So these are my 10th, 9th, and 8th in the Premier League. Tino Livramento, Braithwaite, and Destiny Udogie.
That is hysterical.
Don't tell me you got the 3.
No, not all 3, but like, come on. The fact that I even got 2 of the 3 is pretty
we didn't
ridiculous.
talk before this.
We live 3,000 plus miles away, and we generally don't talk for the week before this. We fill up a Google Doc, but we don't tell what we're going to put down. So my 10th is Kabi Mainu for Manchester United.
Whoa, Breton, 10?
I know. A lot of people are going to yell at me for that. It is understandable. I get it. I wrestled with it, but I just feel like there's too small of a sample size. Now, I think we do this 3 months from now, right? I honestly think he's rising rapidly here, okay? 3 months ago, we knew his name. A lot of people knew his name, but he was working his way in it.
I have Kobe Maino ahead of Alejandro Garnacho.
Oh, my God.
I do.
It's too soon,
I'm controversial. I'm controversial, baby.
He has the potential to be generational, but I just don't think he's there yet. Okay, so Kabi Mainu is 10. But are you ready for this? This is where the fun lies. Number 9 for me, just like Alex, is Jared Braithwaite. I think he's been one of the only good things about an Everton side this season. That lucky for Everton, they saw 10 points down to 6-point deduction. True. So they got a little breathing room above them and a relegation scrap. And then my number 8, and he's only kind of fallen back into 8 recently, is Destiny Udogie for Tottenham. I still think he is one of the most exciting left backs, period, in the Premier League. So he's only 21, and I'm really, really excited to see what his future at Spurs is. But he started the season red hot. I think there's been a little bit of a petering off. But number 8 for me is Udogie. So 10 is Mainu, Braithwaite 9, Udogie 8.
Mad, you're putting Maino 10th, Fredson, in my point of view. But I share, luckily enough, the same 9th and 8th. That's mad. That is crazy. Mad that we have the same. So 3 positions until the 5th. So I have Tino Livramento 10th. I have 9th, Jared Braithwaite. 8th, Destiny Udogie. My 7th is Alejandro Garnacho, one of the best young wingers in the Premier League. My 6th pick is Evan Ferguson. And my 5th pick is Kobe Maino because I've seen enough with him. I think Kobe Maino will be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in the next 3 years with the way he's playing. I'm not saying he's Kevin De Bruyne, people, but I do believe he's going to establish himself as a starter of this Man United team in the next 3 years. And whoever next coach is, he's got to play Alejandro Garnacho, Kobe Maino, and Rasmus Højlund, the future of Man United. So I think if I think Kobe Maino should go to the Euros for England, I certainly think he should be in the top 5 Wonderkids of the Premier League in my point of view. So I've got Kobe Maino in 5th, generational talent, and Manchester United.
Oof. And who's your 6th again? For some reason, I blanked out.
Evan Ferguson.
Evan Ferguson. He is a snub of mine right now.
What?
I really, really think that he has all the tools to be a striker. But yeah, I mean, I can't like discount or just forget about what his form looks like at the moment.
I'm curious about your list, Bretson. I'm curious about it.
I know. I'm suspect all around, Alex. So I don't know what to tell you. Okay, my number 7 is Harvey Elliott. Okay, still 20 years old. The other day, he just lifted his 2nd Carabao Cup trophy.
True.
And he is still the youngest ever to play at 15 years old in the Carabao Cup. That's not what we're necessarily here for. But I think that he is the youngest of players that have really stepped up for Liverpool.
True.
Yes, I believe he's even younger than Connor Bradley, who is everybody's kind of breakout star right now. But Harvey Elliott, I think knowing that he is never going to really break in on his preferred right side, but playing wherever he needs to play, he's one of those that are still in the nascent stages of earning Klopp's trust, and just plugging the gap, right? Plug the gap and make sure that Liverpool lives another day until they get their stars back. But I think he's actually played well enough. He's scored a few goals that he deserves a whole lot more time moving forward. So number 7 for me is Harvey Elliott, with a quick shout out to Jarrell Quansah, who's also been phenomenal for Liverpool, but he's not in my list. But number 7, Harvey Elliott. Number 6 for me is my guy, Pop Matar Sarr. I know when he went away for AFCON that people kind of forgot about him. This kid is a stud and has been for Spurs, has not yet kind of gotten back into that form, but I'm pretty confident he will be a massive part of Big Ange's setup for the foreseeable future. And as they get better and better and more formidable as a team, it will be because Matar Sarr matures and gets even better. And my number 5 is Alejandro Garnacho. I just can't look past me enjoying the swag, me enjoying his what's the best word?
Flair.
It's like an annoyance, an ignorance almost, right? Flair, yeah, a haughtiness that he takes to the stage that you just don't see that often. You know, like Bukayo Saka is never going to be that kind of flashy dude per se. Garnacho, yeah, he's got that like verve, and I really enjoy that about him, and I also hate it about him. I really hate it about him. If I'm the opposing team, I don't want to play against him. Now, Manchester City knows how to play against him.
Exactly.
So 7 for me, Elliott. 6 is Matar Sarr. 5 is Garnacho.
Well said about Harvey Elliott. And if I'm thinking properly now, I'm gonna put my 10 and I'm gonna put Harvey Elliott there. Well said, Bretson. Yes. Because how young he's been, how much on the scene he's been, I agree with you. Harvey Elliott is a player that must be mentioned. And with Mo Salah being there, he's for sure not going to play right wing. But when Mo Salah leaves, Harvey Elliott will be going against someone to be the next right winger. So that battle will be very interesting to see next season at Liverpool. Or maybe they're going to play with a right wing back like Jeremy Frimpong. Who knows what's going to be happening at Liverpool next season. But it's been controversial. Yes, these top 10 picks right now until the 5th. But I think here, it's not going to be controversial, these top 5 picks, in my point of view. So my 5th pick of the best players in the Premier League, Kobe Maino. My 4th pick, Rico Lewis, a veteran already, or playing like a veteran, Rico Lewis right now for this Man City team. 4th place in the top 10 under 21 Wonderkids in the Premier League. And my 3rd place, I put the best player of Chelsea this season, Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer has been absolutely fundamental for this Pochettino team to have results and goals when they shouldn't have, because they're not playing good football. And Cole Palmer delivers when he is needed. So my 5th place, Kobe Maino. 4th place, Rico Lewis. And 3rd place, Cole Palmer. The top 2 in the Premier League. It's going to be controversial. So see the full video, people.
Oh my, yeah. So that means, wow, Cole Palmer's 3rd. I think I know who your top 2 is, but I'm really interested to see who your first is. Okay. Well, with my
hard.
fifth is Garnacho. We're only going down to 3, right? You want the top 2 at the end here?
Yeah,
So
just
we're a little
top
overlap.
2.
Okay, I like it. I
already
like
mentioned
it.
as a top 3. Yeah.
Yeah, here's a fun little snub. Manchester City fans, you please kill me. I mean, I almost wanted to hurt myself after letting him go. I don't have Rico Lewis in my top 10.
Ooh.
I do not. I do not, and I feel that.
That gave me shivers, mate. That gave me shivers. Because Rico Lewis has to be called up for the English national team for the versatility he offers.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for the versatility, there's quite a few versatile players that could also join in there. I mean, Rico Lewis still has some development to do, but yeah, I mean, he is well on his track to becoming a different version of a Phil Foden in the sense of being one of those academy players that Pep Guardiola trusts, and he has trusted in the past. I just think it's been more out of sight, out of mind. It's not like he's been playing a whole lot as of late, but doesn't discount his absolute quality for me, and obviously he's like an 11th for me. But that's crazy though, because he was 3, 4 for you. But anyway, 5 for me, Garnacho. 4, we're talking versatility here. I'm going Levi Colwill. Well, why are you doing Levi Colwill when Chelsea is a mid-table cruddy team, right?
Exactly.
Sorry, Chelsea fans. I didn't mean to be so whatever.
I'm
a lot of it
on
is
Colwill, yeah, because I don't have him.
It's just seeing his absolute ability to be so calm on the ball is what I like. Versatility helps. He's been one of the more trusty, more dependable of a back 4, even after they've gone out and purchased, I don't know, every center back in Ligue 1 under the sun, right? Desassi and Badiashile. I don't think people even know where Badiashile is these days. So he's outperformed them. Would I think he'd be higher or as high in a Brighton shirt? I think he could be higher.
Exactly. In a Brighton shirt, I'd have Levi Colwill in the top 10 100%. But this season, I cannot put Levi Colwill in the top 10. And I even have Jared Braithwaite that is underrated at Everton.
And that's probably why you have Palmer at 3. But 5 for me, Garnacho. 4 is Levi Colwill. 3 is Rasmus Winter.
We disagree.
Yeah, we do disagree. And listen, there's no doubt that in that Manchester derby, they missed Rasmus Winter.
Exactly.
I think he was rounding into form at exactly the right time, and then that dumb injury takes him out, and we don't get to see him on the biggest stage in the Premier League at the Manchester derby, protecting his own Old Trafford. So I really wish we could have seen him. Maybe he'd be a little bit higher if that's the case, a little recency bias in effect. But you have seen the glimpses of real stardom that could happen here. So top 3, while it might feel a little too low or a little too high, even though it's a lower number, it is one that he's a rising 3 for me, for sure. Rising 3. So there you go.
Well, my top 3. So you're gonna be a bit shocked, Breton. My top 3 best under 21 players this season. No, my top 3 best players in the Premier League under 21. I put 3rd Cole Palmer. I put 2nd Jeremy Doku, undoubtedly one of the best dribblers in Europe this season, and I put number 1 Rasmus Winter Højlund, the player of the month of February of the Premier League, the player that this season has 13 goals, 2 assists, and the player that is the main catalyst, in my point of view, to make a top 4 for Man United in the Premier League if they're going to get it. No Rasmus Winter Højlund, no party. And we saw that more than evident against Man City. This man was competing to be the top goal scorer of the Champions League when they were in the Champions League, Man United. I know at the time, 0 Premier League goals, but look at him now. Consistently, in 2024, he's a different man. I know I've got big time subs, but my top 5 Premier League top under 21s, I have 5th Kobe Maino, I have 4th Rico Lewis, 3rd Cole Palmer, 2nd Jeremy Doku, and I've got Rasmus Winter Højlund, number 1. The Danish monster brewing at Man United.
So how can you say that? So you're saying Rasmus Winter Højlund is number 1 in spite of Erik ten Hag?
Yeah.
Or are you giving him credit, Ten Hag?
No, mate. I think with a Ruben Amorim, with a Rasmus Winter Højlund, boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
What we would
Fair
see.
enough.
But I think Rasmus Winter Højlund, he wasn't being delivered the ball at the start of this season. How can you treat your striker like that? I know he didn't have the best team next to him. He didn't have Eriksen like he had last season with the glue of a midfield, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno. But still, you got to do better. And I see many problems that come from the way the ball went to Rasmus Winter Højlund at the beginning of the season. You were putting a Mason Mount on the pitch. You were putting an Anthony a lot on the pitch when he wasn't delivering. So that was happening, and I did not like it. I think world-class potential, Højlund.
Alex, I have a very serious admission to make. I forgot Mason Mount even existed.
Right now, Man United fans should be saying the same. 60 million spent. Anthony 100. 60 million spent on Mason Mount. Like, Rasmus Winter Højlund is the holy grail right now. He's the difference. He's the man that even though the team's not playing the best football, he's right there. And it's Garnacho, Maino, and Rasmus Winter Højlund that you got to invest in the future. All top 10 players in the Premier League under 21. We both have three. Them three.
Yeah. But I really do have to ask, what has happened to Mason Mount? Is he injured? He's been injured?
He's been injured? He's been injured, yes.
Okay.
A lot of the season.
Somebody give me a medical update on the guy because, wow, I 100% forgot he existed. That's insane.
No.
My brain just broke a little bit. Okay. My top three, while I disagree with yours, I respect it. Number 3 for me is Rasmus Winter Højlund, to repeat that. Number two, Jeremy Doku for me. And I think you know what that means for my number 1. And this is one where I am going to wiffle waffle or whatever you want to call it on Chelsea. Because what Cole Palmer has done at Chelsea, coming out of an academy with only a few appearances, right, for Manchester City, he scored a few goals, right? He did it in some big stage games for Manchester City. And given time, he probably would have been a star for Manchester City. But he needed a stage. He got a stage. Chelsea's his team. Now he's got to own the underperformance so far this season, but he is not the problem in no way, shape, or form. And this is one of those kids that got a stage, and now he is a bona fide tough player to play against. And he's thrust himself into England contention, maybe. Maybe it's going to take him being red hot throughout the end of the season for that to even happen, considering how stacked England is. I know it's a little bit of an offshoot, but just from where he was to where he is now, I think he deserves number 1 at the moment. Now, do I think he has the number 1 in terms of potential? No. I'd say Jeremy Doku, Højlund, Garnacho are much higher there. Mainu, much higher there. Yeah, Mainu for sure, much higher there. But as of right now, Cole Palmer, I mean, he means everything to that Chelsea club. He means everything to that Chelsea club, right? So that's why I put him as number 1. It's flawed, I'm sure. But just to list my top five, we got Alejandro Garnacho in 5th, Levi Colville for Chelsea in 4th, Rasmus Winter Højlund, Manchester United 3rd, Jeremy Doku, City, and Cole Palmer,
I don't
Chelsea
even have
at
Levi Colville.
1.
I don't even have Levi Colville. And people can say that disrespect, but I still don't think he's a bona fide English national team player. I can't.
Well,
I don't. If it was him at Brighton, yes. And I'm mentioning Brighton. We only have one Brighton player in the top 10 list, which is Evan Ferguson. But in terms of talents, they got Valentino Barco that soon I think will be in the top 10 list like this. They got Carlos Baleba that's playing great football, substituting the Moises Caicedo move. And they got Buenanote. That Buenanote is a phenomenal Argentinian midfielder that you should for sure know about. They're doing good moves still.
I think next season is the season you see big seasons from them all. Buenanote worked his way into the 11, but I think you can't, like, all Argentinian players can't just come in and automatically hit the ground running. It took Garnacho some time to break into the 11 too. But other names that you mentioned, very true about Brighton. Like, we always talk about them being a Wonderkid 11. We love it. But some of them are going through, they're mid-table. They're mid-table right now because they're dealing with two fronts. First time ever in their history that they're dealing with two fronts. They'll be back. They'll be up there.
Oh.
They might not have Europe this season,
Playing
but they'll be up
against
there.
Roma.
Others, yeah. But another one to mention there, who is back, just played his first football in a long time, was last season's, I believe it was a goal of the year winner. Julio Enciso is back playing, only 20 years old. But another shout out, Lewis Miley for Newcastle, 17 years old. That's got to be worth something. He's been huge for them. And he's also, I think, grown like 4 inches from the beginning of the season to like the end of to the middle of the season. Just shows you're putting a 17-year-old on the pitch for Newcastle, who won Europe last season.
Another
take a tough one.
And other players.
Who's another one?
Outside of even the top 6, you have an Alex Scott now at Bournemouth. You got a Milos Kerkez. You got a Zabarny. All 3 are Wonderkids that could shine in the future for the Cherries. And another 2 players that I wanted to mention would be Aaron Hickey, that I really like at Brentford. Proper Wonderkid at fullback, and Murilo. That was a great move by Nottingham Forest.
Huge.
A future Brazil national team center back, maybe. He's becoming one of those players, because I think they called up the wrong Murilo with Dorival Jr., the Palmeiras Murilo. They should have called up the Nottingham Forest Murilo. Tell us if you want us to talk about the Brazil national team call-up in the comment section if you want us to do so. And Adam Wharton. And I really like Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace. Left-footed midfielder. 20 million.
For sure. For sure. I love, though, the 2 center backs you mentioned, Zabarny and Murillo. The only reason they're not higher, they didn't break into those lists for me, even though Branthwaite did, is just simply where they are, right, in the table. But Senesi and Zabarny have formed a nice little formidable kind of building block for Bournemouth moving forward. Even though I think it was today that Anthony Areola won his first game of 2024 for Bournemouth. So they've got some pepping up to do. I left Tino Livramento off. I also left Malo Gusto off. He's had some highs, he's had some lows, but as of recently, he's looked okay. He's looked pretty good. Definitely a lot of talent there, more on the attacking than on the defense, in my opinion. And then the only other one I wanted to mention that you hadn't mentioned was before his injury, it was a shame. Ryan Gravenberch was starting to show some good stuff for Liverpool. And it's a shame that he's injured right now, because I think he'd be continuing that trend, and he'd obviously be a commander in the midfield as well, working alongside Endo McAllister. And it's a shame that injury has kept him out. Oscar Bob.
Yes.
Oscar Bob and Jack Hinchell would deserve shout outs for sure. Bob is a phenomenal dribbler. So,
and I wanted to mention Chelsea has spent so much money that look at even these snubs we didn't mention in the top 10 Wonderkids in the Premier League. David Washington, and Oni Madueke. You got a Carni Chukwuemeka. You got a David Datru Fofana. So much money spent based on potential. Chelsea has to go bold in the next few years. So let us know. Do you agree? Do you disagree with our top 10 lists? Who was the name that we didn't even mention in this video? Let us know in the comment section down below, and like this video for more videos just like this. But yes, Bretson, Champions League's going to happen next week, and we want to know your predictions for the week that's going ahead and the following week, because it's going to be definitely a hard one to predict. Real Sociedad against PSG. How are you feeling, Bretton?
I'm feeling I'm going to go 100% in predictions this week. So we're starting with Real Sociedad versus PSG. PSG is a 2-0 lead. Real Sociedad does not look the same as they did earlier this season, dealing with injuries. I think PSG has more than enough to make sure they don't screw things up at the Anianta. So PSG goes through.
PSG 0-0 last weekend against Monaco, though. And Kylian Mbappe was subbed off at halftime. What did he do, Kylian Mbappe? The owner of PSG, or was the previous owner these past few years, he just goes and he watched from the stands next to his mom. His agent, too. Yeah. That shows the respect. The respect right now.
That is a really interesting thing to bring up. And if they were playing, a PSV.
Yes.
Or others like, a Porto, I'd probably be more worried for them. But Real Sociedad does not look like the same Real Sociedad we saw at the beginning of the season. But as a quick aside, and I know we wanted to run through these Champions League predictions, we've seen it in the comments. We've meant to find a way to kind of thread Stade Brest or Brest into this. And I just have to tell people, it is not normal for this club to be this high in Ligue 1. If you don't know Brest, Brest was in 14th for most of Ligue 1. They were last season. They were in a relegation fight. They eventually beat it out and they got it done. They stayed in Ligue 1 even with as many teams. What was it, like 4 teams that went down last year? 3 teams because they were restructuring. Now listen, this season they're not just in second. They're in second with daylight ahead of them and Monaco. They had another win the other day. They're 4 points ahead of Monaco in third. They're not going to catch PSG at the top. But second place is insane for this team. They are a team's team. And what's even funnier is the guy who runs them, the manager that runs them. He was essentially at beIN Sports for 5+ years. His last managerial role was 13 years ago, 12 years ago. Oof. He was the Nice coach. His name is Eric Roy or Eric Waugh, 56 years old. And he had not managed anything. He was the sporting director for Watford. He was the sporting director for, who was it? I forget who he was the sporting director for. Yeah, and he was gone. He was literally out of sight, out of mind from the sideline for many years, and he really wasn't that good of a manager for Nice. He wasn't terrible, but right now they've got only 1 loss in their last 10 games, and they're doing it with names that are Ligue 1 vets. So you're talking like Romain Del Castillo. You're talking about, who's the other guy? Pierre-Lise Melou. These are not household names at all. They're likely also not names that are going to be snapped up. So they could actually build on this. But they're 3 big jewels that you have to remember because we are FC Wonderkid. Lilian Brassiere, who is another Stade Rennais product, who is their center back, one of the best young center backs in the league right now. And that's saying something because France is chock full of good young center backs. You have one of the best left backs, young left backs in the league. Actually, one of the best left backs in the league is Bradley Lacko, 21 years old. And then my favorite, who had 4 goals in a game, is Kamori Doumbia, who went to AFCON, was Mali's best player at AFCON, and is also one of the best players for Brest. So, had to throw it out there, give you a little bit of a fun. We were all talking about Will Still last season and Stade Reims, right? This season, it's Eric Waugh and Stade Brestois. So, there you go.
Very well said. Getting that knowledge to the people that want to know about the Champions League. I like to know that. So PSG goes through against Real Sociedad. Arsenal against Porto. How are you feeling?
Arsenal will overcome at the Emirates, guys. I know how you feel, Alex. Last time this happened, believe it or not, in 2010, completely different teams. But in 2010, Porto won the game at the Dragao. And then they lost 5-0 at the Emirates, okay? And that was back when leading Arsenal was Tomas Rosicky, when it was Andriy Arshavin, and it was Lord Nicholas Bentner up top. Do I think Arsenal will beat Porto 5-0 at the Emirates? Absolutely not. Do I think they will win and overcome? I do think they'll win and overcome. I think the defense will set the way, and I think we're looking at a Kai Havertz goal to make it happen.
Diogo Costa masterclass against Arsenal. Come on, Porto. Now a Barca Napoli. What you feel here?
I love this game. I love this game. Napoli is not very good right now, but Kvaratskhelia is doing well. Last 2 years ago, I think it was Adama Traore had a 2-assist day, which never happens. And Aubameyang was on the score sheet for Barcelona for them to get by them in the Europa League. I think Barcelona's a better team. So Barcelona's going to get through, even if they're not playing at Camp Nou. Barcelona will be fine. No reason to disrupt the trend. Barcelona knocks Napoli out.
The last dance of Xavi in the Champions League. Come on, Barca.
Yeah.
I also believe Barca's going through. Atletico Inter. The Inter manager that's going to be at Inter until 2027. Contract extension rumored right now. Atletico Inter, how are you feeling?
This just feels too almost good to be true for Inter. They are steamrolling everybody right now. They've got 12 wins, 1 draw in their last 13 games. And they've got Antoine Griezmann still trying to fight back to fitness for this game. So I'm not feeling too contrarian. I don't see a way, even at the Wanda Metropolitano, that they beat a really formidable squad in Inter. And Inter is one of my favorites, dark horses, I guess, to win this thing. It's weird to say a finalist is a dark horse from last season, but Inter
didn't
scored
win the
4 goals in
Scudetto.
each of their last 4. They did, and
No, they
they
didn't.
didn't.
Napoli did.
They didn't. Napoli did. You're right. They were more of a dark horse last season than they are this season. But with
Exactly.
Manchester City in the mix, you almost have to call them still a dark horse. But they have scored 4 goals in each of their last Serie A contests, and 2 of those included Atalanta and AS Roma. So they're doing something right. And Lautaro Martinez, if he was anywhere else, any other league right now, specifically if he was in England, Lautaro Martinez would be $150 million valuation, right? I mean, it's insane. He's 25, 26 years old, and he just joined the list of only like 7 Argentinians to score 100 goals in Serie A.
True.
So
and his third
it's
consecutive season, 3 consecutive seasons scoring more than 20 Serie A goals. That's mad.
That's awesome.
And you said 25. Captain Lautaro Martinez, El Toro, for a reason. Dortmund PSV. PSV, they're going to remain unbeaten in the Eredivisie. They didn't lose to Feyenoord. 2-2 game. That was a madness. So, do you believe they're going to beat against Dortmund?
Listen, they had errors versus Feyenoord. They haven't looked as great. In fact, my underrated center back, that center back pairing did not look so good. Now, Dortmund, I think if Dortmund wins this, and I do... If Dortmund wins this, it's because Signal Iduna throws PSV off more than it's Dortmund. Okay? True. That's what I'm saying about this. Now, Dortmund has a pretty good team, but PSV, I think this is one of the best PSV teams that they've had in a very long time. So, with that said, I want to see PSV through, but my heart tells me that Dortmund will actually get this done, even though I don't like them under.
Come on, Bakayoko, Vermaer, and Luke de Jong. I believe they can get the win, though. I
really want to see it. And Malik Tillman has looked great for them. I'm just more excited. I'm starting to bubble over in enjoyment with CONCACAF Nations League coming up. I'm more excited to see Malik Tillman, Ricardo Pepi, Serginho Dest, Johnny Cardoso for Real Betis, Christian Pulisic. I'm ready to see that. I know we're talking Champions League, but 3 American guys taking the field for PSV. That was history when that happened in that 1-1 draw versus Dortmund. Now let's see him get by Dortmund. So my heart says I want to see PSV win. My brain tells me Signal Iduna is a formidable opponent in and of itself. So there you go.
So you go with Dortmund. Okay.
I do.
Man City, Copenhagen. Man City, obviously, right, Brett?
Man City. Yeah. Make it interesting, Copenhagen.
Exactly. Make it interesting. And the last one, Bayern against Lazio. And for me, it's mega interesting because if Bayern Munich lose to Lazio, I am sure of what I'm saying. Thomas Tuchel will be sacked. 100%. And to replace him, Xabi Alonso next season, that would be the dream scenario. But I think the best possible coach would be Arne Slot from Feyenoord. A manager that I consider very underrated and refused Tottenham last summer before they went for Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, and you're right. Arne Slot is not losing the Eredivisie this year. It's PSV is just something else this season. It's hard to match that form ever. But I am going to say it. Allianz Arena is formidable. Bayern is still a formidable team. They're still a better team than Lazio. And we're talking about Lazio as if they steamrolled Bayern. No. Upamecano was sent off in the 14th minute. And on top of that, Ciro Immobile converted a penalty for them to win 1-0.
True.
I think both teams have terrible form right now. Both teams have terrible form right now. Lazio, they lost to Bologna, they lost to Fiorentina, they lost to AC Milan. I mean, any real European ambitions they had, they're kind of seeing dissipate away as it stands. And Bayern, obviously, they kind of stink too. They're not doing so hot, but they still have Harry Kane. Well, and they still have Allianz Arena. And they still have Joshua Kimmich. And they still have Thomas Müller.
But they
still have Jamal Musiala.
And they still have the Bundesliga, but not for long because Bayer Leverkusen is going to win it. 10 points away now, Bayern Munich. 99 goals scored by this team of Xabi Alonso. 30 years,
crazy.
No titles. No Bundesliga title ever in their history. But guess what? Xabi Alonso ball is happening. Go Leverkusen.
It's true. Oh my gosh. And the Frimpong Grimaldo thing, I need somebody I need somebody to be a historian here. Go back and tell
goal
me.
involvements. Grimaldo
Right,
has
tell me-
11 goals, 11 assists. Frimpong 10 goals, 10 assists.
It's insane.
What?
Like, tell me, has there ever been a better, duo in terms of efficiency and ruthless goal scoring and setting up the table? Like, it's 10 points. And that is another reason why I do think Bayern will overcome Lazio, because I think 10 points is too much.
Well,
and I don't know what
Tuchel was the
Tuchel's
Barca
saying.
and Real Madrid in the past. The Marcelos, the Carvajal, and obviously the
were they-
Dani Alves and Alba.
Yeah, but I mean, from sheer numbers, were they as productive? You're definitely right that they were better. But they had another goal. What was it? I know Cologne lost a man early on.
True.
So it was only a matter of time. But Grimaldo scored again today, or over the weekend,
Frimpong scored, yeah.
and Jeremy Frimpong scored as well. And it's like they have this little arms race between the two of them, where they just keep scoring and scoring. And in the Bundesliga alone, I think it's like almost half of the goals scored by them have had the footprint of Jeremy Frimpong and Alejandro Grimaldo. But I am going to say 10 points, too much to overcome for Bayern. So that is why I think all eggs are being put, or all eggs better be put in the Champions League basket. I think they've already lost the domestic front. Now they've got to go win Europe.
Interesting. Definitely interesting Champions League choices, Bretson.
Yeah.
So a quick fire. I'll say the names and you just say the winner. So Real Sociedad, PSG.
PSG.
Arsenal, Porto.
Arsenal.
Barca, Napoli.
Barcelona.
Atletico, Inter.
Inter.
Dortmund, PSV.
Oh, it hurts to say. I think Dortmund will do it. Dortmund.
Come on, PSV. Man City, Copenhagen.
Man City.
And the last one, Bayern against Lazio.
Bayern, we're also missing Real Madrid, but Real Madrid.
And Real Madrid against Leipzig. Real Madrid. Yes, that is true, Bretton.
that is closer than they would like it to be.
How could I be missing when I'm wearing their jersey? Oh, my days. And I just wanted to say, Vini Jr., Vini Jr., 2 goals against Valencia. The whole stadium was against him. He puts that iconic celebration, and you got to say, he's a world-class player right now, Vinicius Jr. Vini, 250 games for Real Madrid, 10 trophies, 73 goals scored, 71 assists. And when he finishes that game, he says, I want to be one of the best ever wearing this shirt of Real Madrid. Do I believe he can become one of the best ever? I do believe, because he's got Carlo Ancelotti developing him towards becoming a Ballon d'Or player one day. And what a robbery that was. What a robbery. I have seen poor reffing sometimes in my life, but this was one of the worst decisions I've seen in my life in terms of refereeing. He should have blown the whistle before if he was going to do it. If he didn't, don't blow it. Like, what? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, listen, everyone's talking about whether it's Forest, Liverpool, or it's Real Madrid. Everyone's talking about those, while Major League Soccer started the season with what we call scabs. We call replacement refs, right? Because the referees are currently in lockout with the pro referees that essentially run them, okay? So they're in lockout with Major League Soccer, which we don't have top tier refs right now. They're pulling them from second leagues and third leagues. And the first week went okay. Second week, not so much, sir. But anyway, that was my segue into Major League Soccer.
Major League Soccer has poor reffing? Oh my days. But Major League Soccer don't have a poor attendance. Major League Soccer, when I see games in Major League Soccer, the stadium is absolutely full. If it's in Charlotte, definitely. And now Inter Miami, every game. But one thing's for sure. It's the one of the first weeks in Major League Soccer, and we already see the best duo in the MLS, Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi.
Oh my
Both
gosh.
having braces. Not braces, actual braces and goals.
And not braces on their knees, like a lot of people said Luis Suarez would have. And 2 goals, 2 assists. This Orlando City team that they beat, and I know most people are approaching this from, well, Messi and Suarez are there and Busquets are there. So, like, there is no other team. They all pale in comparison. And I do understand that. But still, Orlando City is considered one of the favorites to win the Eastern Conference if it's not an Inter Miami, right? If it's not an FC Cincinnati. The fact that they literally just ran riot over them was actually a little bit surprising to me, considering the other games that they've played previous to this. Okay. So it wasn't like guaranteed. But yeah, Messi had 2 goals. Luis Suarez basically told the whole camp that thought Luis Suarez had bought it, hey, remember me? I had 26 goals and 17 assists last season for Gremio. I don't like, if you play the way I need to play right now, and Orlando City allowed them to play the way that they needed to play, I'm going to score goals because I'm a ruthless finisher still at 37 years old. Oof. And that's what he showed. So head to head, on paper, Inter Miami, I'm going to say it again, they're MLS Cup favorites.
Yes.
Sure. I think what most people need to think about, though, and where my realism, I guess, comes in and skepticism comes in, is that the fact that MLS is also milking the heck out of these guys for as many fixtures as they most possibly can. On top of that, you're going to have Copa America, where I believe Luis Suarez will go. And I also believe Messi's going to go. And any injuries to these guys, they're only as good as their backups, right? Or they're only as good as their young core. Now, do I think Inter Miami will lift the MLS Cup trophy?
Yes.
I don't.
What?
I don't.
Yes, they will.
Do I think that they could be Supporter Shield winners, which is the best record, essentially the winner of the league before you do the American playoff thing, right? Yes, I think they could be Supporter Shield winners for sure. And to many, that's actually a better accomplishment. The issue is you only really remember the MLS Cup winner.
They'll win both. They'll win they'll win both. Yes. They'll win the Shield and they win the MLS Cup. 1-on-1, no one should beat the Inter Miami team in the knockout game, in my point of view. Yeah. And I don't want to say Messi, Ronaldo comparison, but if Ronaldo was there at 36, I think he would 100% not lose that game in a final or a semifinal. And I 100% believe Messi feels that way. The way you see Messi dribbling against Orlando City this weekend, it's like he's levitating almost. Nobody can touch him. Yeah. The dribbling is just on another level, and I'll be shocked. Whoever beats this Inter Miami team will also be an historic team in MLS history, because you will be remembered as a team that beat Inter Miami. That will be ridiculous when that happens, if that happens.
And that is why this summer I expect it to be, right, when the European seasons are over, I expect the secondary transfer window for MLS to be one of the hottest that has ever been seen in MLS, because I think people do realize that. I mean, maybe you can get a one-off result on Inter Miami, but if they are healthy, and that's a big if, right? If they are healthy, they are better. They are much better. And you've already seen like a Julian Gressel, the MLS vet that they've brought in, and the young guys like a Diego Gomez, like a Tomas Aviles. They are already incredible additions to this team. And they're going to need a Kromaski to come back. They're going to need all these guys because they're going to need their whole dang roster to win this thing. But there are other good teams so far, FC Cincinnati. But yes, none of them,
Charlotte,
very clearly, none of them have the star power. Yeah, and Charlotte's about to bring another... you remember Lyle Abada?
Yes, Lyle Abada from Celtic. Good Israeli player.
Yeah. 22 years old. He had 10 goals, 5 assists for Celtic last season. Sounds to me like Tom Bogert, who is our version of the American version, if you will, of Fabrizio Romano. He says that Lyle Abada is on his way to Charlotte FC.
Nice one.
And why not, man? Playing in front of 60,000 people?
Abada would be one of the top players in goal involvements if he goes to Charlotte, in my point of view, in the MLS. I think that could be the case. And I wanted to say another prediction, too. The Golden Boot race right now is Christian Benteke against Lionel Messi. I fully expect or Luis Suarez or Lionel Messi to finish top 2 in terms of goal scorers in the MLS. And one of them will have to be the number 1. Inter Miami winning the MLS Cup and having the Golden Boot winner.
And I hope to have a little more MLS content coming in the near future, just talking about some of the other teams. But Inter Miami very much is the story.
And Lloris.
And Lloris
playing in the snow. in Utah. Welcome to Utah. I was shook. Real Salt
to
Lake
Utah.
was all over the screens on social media. Everybody was shocked when Lloris playing on the snow. So the MLS
And that's
brings us new things in football.
Oh, yeah, new things in football for sure. And that is why most people that say, why doesn't MLS play on the European schedule? That is exactly why we don't play MLS on the European schedule, because Real Salt Lake is vastly different than playing in Philadelphia, than playing in Miami, than playing in Houston, than playing in Los Angeles, and playing in Minneapolis for Minnesota United, or Montreal right now. It is winter sometimes when it is it's so ridiculous. And in Frisco, where FC Dallas is, in Houston during the summer, it is brutal. We're talking 110, 115 on the field. I don't know what that is Celsius. So for somebody to do that, I apologize. But that is why I don't see it ever happening, at least anytime soon. But listen, it is such a fun league. We'll talk about other teams. We'll talk about the Cincinnatis. We'll talk about, Herman Berterame might be coming to Portland Timbers, but that's not for this particular show here. We did a lot today in episode 146, did we not?
Exactly. And let us know, what have we missed? Don't forget to like this video if you're listening until now. And people, amazing community, thank you for going bold with us another week, episode 146. Thank you, people.